Everyone. All right, so we are doing a special edition today. We're just going to be doing a little, oh gosh, ACM. ACM, how I hate you. 3, 2, 1. We're going to be doing a special edition on breeding. The reason I wanted to go ahead and do this today was because we have some people that are playing ARK with us now on my private server that are sort of new to breeding in ARK, and been having a lot of discussion with them about it. And I thought, it's probably a good time to do a recap for people on how to breed in ARK, or the best way. So now this is, granted, I don't play on official. I play on private servers. There's no way in hell I want to deal with official. No offense to people who play on it. Anybody that does, more power to you. So I'm sure this is a lot harder to do on official, but this is basically for people who play on, a more casual server where things like this are easy to handle. So, I'm going to just kind of discuss the first thing I like to do is go out and look for some high level animals. Now, our settings are, I think, in line with official. Max levels 150. Generally, I go out and, me personally, say I'm like trying to breed beavers or something, I'll go out and I'll grab as many wild samples as I can. And then I'll put them all out somewhere where I can look at their stats, and I'll go through and basically, let's say this was the first one I saw. If it was a Doedicurus, I'd look through all these stats here, say this was wild, and I would take a spreadsheet or a notepad or whatever, and I would write down all the stats that I see in this very first one in my row. So say I have them all lined up. So I'd write them all down, and then I go on to the next animal, and I'd say, okay, does this one have anything higher? If it has something higher, if it's my spreadsheet, let's see if I can actually pull up my spreadsheet for you and let you see it. Can you see this spreadsheet? Doesn't look like you can. Let me see. Maybe if I make it big. No, I think because I'm not recording desktop, you're just going to get a black screen, so that's unfortunate. But I have a nice spreadsheet that's set up with all my stats on it, and it's, in essence, makes it much easier for me to go through and just, okay, I replace it. Like I said, if you have a piece of paper and a notebook, you cross it off, you write your new high stat, and then when you're done reviewing all your wild samples, you go back through and you look in and you say, ooh, okay, this one here is my high health. And then you change its name to high health. Now you can actually put the number, what that high health is. You can just type it in there, and then you'll have some sort of symbol to help you understand what your stats are. You can see right here, I have my own sort of symbols. I put, health, stam, oxygen, and melee. So I just use letters for them. Then I put a space, and I write down what their gender is. So that's why I have this big long name here. You can see this one here, minus stamina. You can use whatever method works for you. A lot of people like to put the actual stat in the name, but if you start getting something that's got like 4 or 5 good stats in it, then it's going to be really long if you put in the number, and it's going to get cut off eventually. So, you gotta make decisions about what you want to do. Now, if you don't want to do the method of spreadsheet, you don't have a notebook, there's another thing you can do. I don't think I have it here. I think I have it on my other server. You can place signs on the wall. I make 2 rows of signs, and one says health, stam, food, oxygen, weight, melee, and then there's a second row, and then I actually put the numbers in that are my high stats. So now if you go out and you see another 150, 130 sample that you want for whatever it is you're breeding, and you look in it and you see does it have a high stat, and you can look and you can see, okay, let me see, it's on the sign. No, no, no. Yes, here's a new high stat. So what you do is you immediately stop and you go find any other of whatever you're breeding, and they have a notation of this is the high melee, this is the high stat, whatever. The old high stat, you remove that marker from them. Like I said, since I have mine in the names, I remove it from their name. I forgot I had creepy turtles over here. And that way, you know, I know that, okay, this no longer is my high stat. You can still look at their spreadsheet too, because I didn't realize it on my Pelagornis because I had failed to do the proper thing. And I had a new food stat. So, I mean, you do mess up sometimes. I definitely do. So this is my new high food stat. So I'm actually gonna nab this Pelagornis here. And then you can work on, you know, spending points in your stats. Now, say you have a wild animal, like this one here, and you're not using a mod like I am, with the dino storage. If you want to put points in it and use it because you don't have a lot of dinos and this needs to be your workhorse, and it's not going to get stored in a cryopod, it's not going to get stored in a dino storage trap, soul trap, you can make a folder inside the animal with its stats. So, like this, I can see what its stats are. You can kind of see through it. You can't put the points, unfortunately, but you can do that. And you can just keep going, mark all the stats. And then if you're not ready to breed now, but you think, well, this is a really good one, I might want to breed later, or somebody I know might want to breed later, but you've spent a bunch of points, when they go, hey, what are the stats? You've got all these folders. I'm not going to keep making them, but you can make one for each stat. And that way, you can tell what its stats were, even though you've spent points. Now, again, I'm pretty sure this works with the cryopods too, but you can see here, if I pick her up and then throw her back out, all of her folders are gone. So you got to be very careful about that, otherwise you will lose your records, which is why I don't do it anymore. We used to, before we had any sort of dino storage, we used to leave notes in their folders, and that way, you know, even if you give it to a buddy, but you won't go, hey, what were those stats? I think I'm going to start breeding them. You know, or your buddy goes, hey, I'm going to start breeding them. What are your stats on yours? You can look through and see, okay, this is what they were when they were wild. Make sure you record the wild stats. Now, if you are using something like Dino Storage, which I highly recommend if you're going to play on a modded server, I can show you it's got sort of some amazing benefits too, because you hear about wasted points and points into this and points into that. Well, what does that mean? Most animals, I think the only one I can really think of is the Tapejara, I know there's others out there, have wasted points. So level 1 animals, no matter what, are going to have all the same stats. After that, their points get divided up and put into different random stats. So, but some of them can actually go into speed. It doesn't make them any faster, but they're wasted. You can see on this one here that I'm hovering over, it had 29 points wasted in speed. Let's see, this wild one here, 31. Those are wasted points. Those points could have gone to something else, something far better. But you can see on this one here, because you see, I can't hover over it, but you can see where all those points went to it, so you can kind of get a glance if you're not familiar with breeding, and see how many points it has in to these different things here. So you can see my food is 39. That's amazing. That's very, very good. So I can tell from this if my animal is good. You can see here, 42. 42 in weight. That's great. I mean, yes, you can find oddballs that have got like 64 in them. They're harder to find, but you'll know if it's a really good animal if you get sort of the higher numbers in these stats. So, and it also does, these are nice too, because you see the dash. That dash will show you how many points the player has put in afterwards. So that's kind of a nice way to do things if you're trying to breed. So this is sort of just a, I don't know, a light video that gives you advice on keeping stats. You can see here I've got all of my guys marked, and the nice thing is if they're marked in the name, like this. I can check their children. So let's see, we got here this one right here, stamina and melee. I can check and see what its parents were. So here's melee, dad, stamina, female, which I think is kind of nice because you can check. Like when you hatch the baby, you look at its ancestry, you can see what traits it should have passed on. Did it pass on these 2 traits? Yes, wonderful. Then you can move on to the next thing. And basically, you know, I think it's pretty self-explanatory how you try to breed all those stats together, but just keep a good record. You know, basically you just gotta, wow, that is a new high weight. Wow. This one's coming back to the island with me. We've been playing over there. But yeah, so, you know, keep good tracks, keep good records of your stats, and that way you can make sure that you get, you know, the best possible animals that you can. So anyway, I want to thank you for joining me for this very brief video, and I will see you next time. Bye bye now.